Roadshow News Recap starts right now. This week, our top story comes from none other than Tesla, because the brand is rolling out the full self-driving beta 10.2 to even more drivers. We're going to talk about the safety score that's required for that, and some beefed up safety elements that Tesla has now put into this system that sounds like it's a really good idea. And other than that, we will be diving into the new Honda Civic Si teaser. Honda rolled out this prototype race car to tease the production car to come, and it looks pretty sweet. And also, the Ford Mustang is getting less powerful? Yeah, for 2022, this pony car is making less power, and we're going to chat about all of that and more just ahead. And this week, my typical co-host Craig Cole is off driving things in Germany. What he's driving, I don't know, but instead, we have Mr. Antuan Goodwin, who stepped up and stepped in to chat with us about all of this week. Hello, Antuan.
What up? How's it going?
It's going just fine here, just good. The weather's still good here on my part of the country, though it's going to start getting cold and rainy here. And I always say that when I see you because I'm always jealous of California weather, and I wish we had it here in Ohio.
It's really cold here. It's really cold.
Oh, really?
It's like 50.
Oh.
Super cold.
Oh, really? Wow. Oh, it's warmer here then. I'm not jealous today then. Okay, fair enough. Well, then we can skip right past those pleasantries because you're not having a good time at all, apparently. No, but before we dive in, we just always like to say thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to Roadshow News. You'll get these weekly shows, quick news hits, editorial, other great stuff. So ring that bell, subscribe, like the videos. We always super duper appreciate it. And with that out of the way, Antuan, this full self-driving 10.2 rolling out to more people. I'll let you take the first crack at this.
Right. So it's the next generation of Tesla's full self-driving system, which we always have to say is not actually full self-driving. It's actually a level 2 driver assistance system, but FSD 10.2 rolling out to drivers who have what's known as a perfect 100 out of 100 driver score over the last 100 days. So that safety score is made up of things like, do you do a lot of like hard braking? Do you have a lot of forward collision warnings? Do you drive really aggressively? And if you are one of the safest drivers according to the score that the vehicle is tracking for you, well, then you can opt into that beta. And opting into the beta is going to bring you more features, allow you to test the newest generation of the full self-driving system. But it also, in keeping with that idea of making sure that these drivers are being responsible, this new generation includes functionalities that allow the system to make sure that you continue to be a responsible driver while using the beta, including using the camera that is mounted near the rear view mirror to keep an eye on the driver to make sure that they are actually watching the road, because that's the requirement of using the system, is that you have to pay attention to the road and be ready to grab the steering wheel if necessary.
Yeah,
interesting.
I just,
go ahead.
I was just going to jump in there. I wanted to be like, why did it take so long for that to be part of this system? That just seems like a no-brainer. You want to make sure people are paying attention when using this kind of system. So why did we have to wait this long for the camera that has been in these cars, at least the newer Teslas, for this to be a thing? I was scratching my head.
If I could play devil's advocate for just one moment before I get back to
Go for it.
Dunking on Tesla. It's on some level, people are a little bit cagey about knowing that their car's watching them. So someone probably thought, well, maybe this isn't a responsible use of the camera to watch. Maybe they thought that the capacitive sensors in the steering wheel were good enough and that they would not need to use the cameras to use the system. But we're at a point now where General Motors has been using cameras in their Super Cruise system to watch the driver's face to make sure that they're keeping their eyes on the road. And that is going to be a requirement for other hands-off self-driving systems in the future. So I think that people are just kind of getting used to the fact that if you want the car to do the driving, that you're going to have to give up a little bit of that and let the camera look at you. Yeah, this is definitely something that other automakers have figured out is the only way that you can truly trust people to do the responsible thing, is to keep an eye on them and make sure they're doing it. So if you're in your Tesla and you're using the full self-driving beta, and you start to look at your phone, it may beep at you to let you know that it's time to get your hands back on the wheel. It may even lock you out of the system if you continue to ignore it until the end of your trip. That's also something that we've seen Super Cruise do. If you ignore its prompts to get back on the road, to put your eyes back on the road, it'll just say, no more for you. You've been a bad little boy, and you can try again tomorrow, or pull over, turn the car off, and back on again. And it's such an inconvenience that it's a deterrent for drivers to start reading books or playing games.
Yeah, totally. Because the whole point of this is supposed to be it's just a hands-free driving system, and you just stare ahead, pay attention, and just kind of relax. The technology, no matter what system you're talking about, if it's Super Cruise or GM's upcoming Ultra Cruise or full self-driving beta, like the technology is not there where we can, have lunch or read whatever, in our laps or something like that. Like, the reason none of these systems are actually fully autonomous is because these systems have to give control back to the human driver at any point in time. Yes, there are some fail safes built into these systems as they stand today, but there's no like ultimate fail safe where the car can be like, it's okay if I can't hand control back to a human driver. Like, I can still handle some sort of failure. That doesn't exist today, and we're probably a very long time away from that. And I always say that, and I don't discount. I was just going to say, I don't discount where Tesla has gotten so far, because still you look at this and it's like, this is pretty incredible all at the same time.
Right. And I mean, that's the importance of communicating to your drivers, using proper nomenclature, not calling your driver aid system full self-driving, because people don't read the manual. They don't read into the information. They just see Tesla has full self-driving. They assume that the car can do things that they can't. This is a good step in the right direction as far as training the drivers, as far as what the car can do, what it can't do, what the technology's expectations for you, the human in the seat, are. But it's also a much smaller step than maybe not calling it full self-driving until it can fully self-drive.
Yeah, no, I totally
That ship's
agree.
probably sailed.
I think the ship sailed when, in all fairness and the honest truth, I mean, Tesla has been overstating, in my opinion, its capabilities, starting with autopilot. When autopilot, people thought that was a fully self-driving car, because you could do some hands-free stuff ish on the highway, and then automatic lane changes came and stuff like that. So I agree with you when you say the ship has sailed. The one thing I was going to point out too with this safety score, I was doing a little bit more reading on it, and it looks like even Elon Musk said that the safety score is still kind of in a bit of an beta, even alpha area of like a life stage. So I'm like, how accurate are these safety scores? I'm thinking, like, if I had a Tesla out in the driveway, could I like run it around in a cul-de-sac like real gently or something for 100 miles, and it's like, wow, you've been super safe, here's your access, and then go be a jerk on the highway?
Sure. I mean, probably. I mean, with any sort of system where you're evaluating people, someone will find a way to cheat it. Driving around in a cul-de-sac for 100 miles is going to take you a lot longer than most people think it will. 100 miles at 60 miles an hour is the better part of like what, almost 2 hours. So you're doing it at 15 miles an hour in a cul-de-sac, it's going to take you forever. But the system tries to aggregate things like forward collision warnings over the last 1,000 miles. So if you're constantly running up on other cars or coming up on pedestrians, those things are going to knock your score down. If you're one of those people who treats the brake pedal like a digital on-off switch, then you are going to get your score hit then. If you run into situations where the autopilot system constantly has to disengage because you're doing things that it's not actually ready to do, if it detects that your hands are off the wheel a lot, or if it detects that your eyes are off the road a lot, that will lower your safety score. And so the assumption is that once you get your safety score to 100, you get into the beta. If your score drops below 100 again, that would probably be cause to kick you out of the beta and make you lose access to it. I'm not really sure how that works out, but that would be the only way that it would make sense to make sure that people stay honest once they get honest.
Yeah, Antoine, that makes total sense. Hopefully that there is some incentive for people to continue behaving once they are in the beta, and if not, Tesla can give them like a bop on the nose and say, no, you have to do better than that, and you'll lose access to the beta. Of course, these people have paid a lot of money to at least try the software, so I don't know if it's like a tug and pull situation or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, that software is constantly evolving, but moving away from that software into one of our other big stories this week, it is the Honda Civic Si, which Honda teased for the first time. We saw a teaser video showing the car in a race car form with a big rear wing and all sorts of extra goodies on it. And this is basically that car, which we'll see in dealerships, but I'm assuming we're not going to get that giant rear wing, Antoine.
Right. There are probably some other aftermarket modifications made to this vehicle because this is the car that they're going to run in the 25 hours of Thunder Hill later on this year. And so in order to do that, they've probably upgraded some other bits of gear, added some more safety equipment to the vehicle. So this isn't exactly representative of what we should expect from the Civic Si when it debuts in production, guys. We don't really know what to expect from this new generation of Si other than a slightly better version or a faster version of what we saw in the last generation, but with all the improvements that we've seen in this new generation of the Civic, which is already looking pretty dope.
Yeah, I mean, Honda was super descriptive when they teased this car. They told us it will be the best performing, the best handling. So I mean, I don't know how much more description you want from a car. Like, there you go. There you have it. That's everything we need to know,
Get
Honda.
better.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, seriously, they didn't dish out any other details with other than just showing us and saying that the car is coming soon. Soon, we don't know if that's in a week. Is that in a couple weeks? We don't have anything out there to share with you guys just yet, but hopefully it's sooner rather than later. But the one thing I did notice on these teasers is there's a dual exhaust, at least on this race car. I don't know if the production car that you'll be able to buy will have that, but the HDMI port is gone from the previous Si, which was a bit of a controversial thing.
Yeah, I mean I guess the way that you sort of differentiate the exhaust of the Si from the Type R is 2 versus 3 ports, right? So you get the triple exhaust for the Type R, the dual exhaust for the Si, and then for your sports and tourings, and you get your single exhaust. So maybe that's the way that they're gonna upgrade the Si. That's actually a very plausible upgrade. It doesn't seem like a race specific upgrade. So yeah, I think we can expect to see at least that on the production model. It looks like for sure it'll be a sedan, not the hatchback that's coming. I don't know if there will be a hatchback version of the Si, but I can't imagine. I imagine that they'll probably want to keep it simple and probably only offer this as the sedan.
Yeah, for anybody watching, if you haven't realized by now, Honda killed the Civic Coupe last year, and that includes the Civic Si Coupe. So, they didn't even keep the Coupe around for, the sportier Civic, which I think is a bummer, And I always said, if you're going to kill the Coupe in general, the Si and the standard Coupe, I'm like, give us an Si hatchback. Like there's precedent for an Si hatchback. They're already positioning the hatch as like the sportier offering between the sedan and that vehicle. It's like, I think that's kind of a really easy decision in my opinion, but I don't run car makers, so I could be totally wrong, but
I mean, I think that for the last generation of Civic, the difference between the sedan and the hatchback, as far as a silhouette perspective, was so small. The sedan already had a very coupe-like profile. Excuse me, the difference between the sedan and the coupe for the last generation, the sedan already had a very coupe-like profile. The way that the roof line sort of stretched almost all the way back to the rear drop-off, that the sort of advantages of the sedan kind kind of outweighed the sort of disadvantages that you would get with the coupe. And there wasn't, I don't really think there was a huge case for the coupe visually. There was no huge case for it performance wise. And, it's just having a back seat's useful. Having access to that back seat's even more useful.
Yep.
And with sedans and coupes sort of being an ever shrinking part of the market, if they had to decide between ditching the coupe in order to continue selling the sedan or giving us an SI CRV, I'll take that the sedan version of the SI any day.
Yeah, super fair when you put it into that. And who knows, something like that could happen. We've seen a lot of cars you'd be like, oh, they'll never get rid of that car. And then one day it's gone, like the Mazda 6. Like I still found that surprising, to see what, a staple mid-sized sedan that's been around for a while. Mazda's just like, nope, we're cutting our losses. We saw it with Ford, the Fusion, Focus, Cruise, and well, Chevy still sells the Malibu, but I think they've given up on that car, in my opinion. But yeah, you're totally right that some sort of decision like that could have been made. Back to the Civic Si, I'm crossing my fingers that there's something different than the 1.5 liter turbo under the hood. I'm probably will be disappointed just because I didn't think that engine was really anything special in the last SI. But I don't see why they would have something different to put in there this time, but who knows?
The thing is, I enjoyed the last version of the SI, but it never really popped to top of mind. I agree with you. It wasn't super special. It was solid. The performance was good, and it definitely filled a space for people looking for something sporty, but not necessarily a sports car. But yeah, it just, whenever it came time for me to think of my favorite sport compact vehicles, the SI never really popped straight to mind. And a lot of that is just that the Type R also sort of steals a lot of that thunder. And when you think about sporty Civic, you go straight to Type R because why wouldn't you? It's one of the best front wheel drive vehicles of currently you can buy and possibly of all time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that your mind just goes straight to Type R. But I always said that the last SI, it just, when I walked away from it after driving it for a couple months, actually, I was just like, it's anonymous. It felt really no different than any, hot hatch with a turbo 4 under the hood. Like it didn't have that distinct Honda feel to it like that 2 liter in the Type R does. That feels like a Honda to me. The SI just felt like a bit of a cookie cutter sport compact experience. And it like you said, it was solid. It was a solid car. It's not a bad car in my opinion, but it just needed like a little something, to take it up a notch for me personally.
Right. I mean,
But,
it has to live in the Type R shadow. It has to live in the GTI shadow. The new generation of GTI is not super duper special. So maybe the SI has a chance to sort of gain back some of that ground and become the darling of this part of the class.
Yeah, and one thing I think the SI has had going for it is that it's so affordable when you compare it to the price of like a GTI. It's like $4,000 cheaper, which if you're looking at a car payment, that's pretty significant if you're looking for something fun, especially now that it will only be a sedan, which will have more usability to it, rather than, I know you had the choice of a sedan or a coupe, but now people are just shopping that now. It's a sedan, it's got a trunk, it's not as good for hauling things as a hatchback, but still there's room for things in it. Sedans aren't dead yet. But wrapping that up, hopefully the new SI blows us away, and hopefully the new Type R blows us away, because around here we like a good sporty Honda. And before we dive into our next topic, just a quick break to say thank you so much for watching. As always, please consider subscribing if you haven't, and the more of you who do subscribe, the less I have to tell you to do it, and the people above me will tell me to stop telling you to do it. So that's all I'll say on that. And moving back into the good stuff, we're looking at less power in the Mustang GT. Antoine, what is going on?
How is that the good stuff? So for 2022, The new Mustang GT and the Mach 1 trims will make 10 horsepower fewer and 10 pound-feet less than they did last year. Ford says that this is due to tight emissions regulations and things like that, but there's not a whole lot of comment from Ford around that. Obviously, they're trying not to draw a whole lot of attention to it. So that means that for 2022, your GT is looking at 450 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, and the Mach 1, 470 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque. Still, a lot of ponies, a lot of twist. You may not even notice it from the driver's seat, but in a class where horsepower and torque are bragging rights, they're big sort of things to talk about in these vehicles and things to brag about to people who are next to you and maybe a Challenger or a Camaro, it is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we have a separate quick news hit when this news first came out on the Roadshow News YouTube channel that you can watch when we first found out about this. And as Antoine said, Ford's not saying much. And I totally agree with you, Antoine, where, in one corner, it's like you're probably not going to feel the 10 horsepower difference. But in the other corner, I think I made mention when I was first talking about this was like, well, in this segment, those numbers matter to people where now you can buy a Chevy Camaro SS and it actually makes more power, 5 more horsepower, but it's still more power, now.
Sure. So that, I mean, and these are tunes most likely. There's probably not a hardware change. It's probably just a change to the tuning of the vehicle. So if you really care, there's probably some space in the aftermarket for you to go back in and
Totally.
install the previous tune from the 2021 model. Get your 10 horsepower back. I mean, there's room in the aftermarket for you to exceed the manufacturer's tune because the manufacturer's tune is quite often built around a balance of getting the right emissions, getting the right fuel economy, and getting the right power. So if you want the power back, you could get it back pretty easily. But as far as turnkey off the lot, it's a tiny hit, small hit, bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, it is easy to go the aftermarket route and find something. But you know what? For a lot of people, too, they don't want to touch that stuff. They just, like you said, a turnkey solution to have some fun. And, my argument to that still is if you're buying a Mustang GT or a Mustang Mach 1 with either 450 or 470 horsepower with these new ratings, if you're not having fun with that much power, I don't know what to tell you because that's plenty. I've driven cars with that kind of horsepower, and it's like you're getting yourself into trouble kind of power around town still.
Sure. I mean, the good news is that for 2022, the Mustang California special's back. So you've got that appearance package with the GTCS graphics in red. You've got enlarged rear scoop. The engine's in the front. I don't know why that's the thing you'd want, but it definitely adds more of a styling pop to the vehicle. And the 2020 model year also introduces the Stealth Edition, which is a blacked out version with dark badges, front and back, and black wheels.
Yeah, and that one's only for the Yeah, I was just going to say, and that one's cool because it's only for the EcoBoost powered Mustangs and it gets clear taillight lenses, which I think look awesome. I know that's standard on like European Mustangs. I think those clear lenses look really cool.
Right. I mean, the taillights on the Mustang just look cool in general, so.
Yeah, I agree. I still think this generation Mustang is a good looking car overall. I still think it's stylish. I think it's aged well. And that kind of leads us to that last point on this topic is that we should be getting close to a new Mustang. So the fact that we're not getting any sort of substantial 2022 updates could perhaps be a sliver of evidence that Ford's done with major improvements to this car, that we're knocking on the door of a next gen Mustang. Who knows?
Hey, maybe those enlarged rear scoops on the California edition are a hint that the next one will be mid-engine.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
Yep.
kidding,
See,
obviously.
that's yeah. No, he's not everybody. Seriously, we have good intel. I'm just kidding.
Mid-engine
No,
Mustang
no mid.
confirmed.
Yeah, mid-engine. Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, it's like reliving like 4 years ago with mid-engine Corvette rumors and all of that stuff. What a time
And
to
look
be
where we are
alive.
now.
That was, yeah. Look where we are. We have a mid-engine Corvette and a mid-engine Z06 coming soon too. But anyway, besides that, we had a lot of other good stuff go live on theroadshow.com this week. And typically I highlight some news stories. I decided to pick out some really awesome reviews this week because we had a ton of like first drives go live. We had the new Toyota Tundra. Emmy Hall drove that. So check out the words she wrote on theroadshow.com. Craig Cole drove the new Civic hatchback for the first time, and that was an in-depth review. So he spent a few days with it, and he's got some really great words on that. And our news and features editor Kyle Hyatt drove the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT for the first time. That's the high-performance version of Ford's electric SUV. So tons of really great cars we got to drive this week, so I wanted to highlight those instead of some other news pieces. Unless Antoine wants to throw a plug in for something as well.
Hey, while Kyle was driving the Mach-E GT here in my neck of the woods, the San Francisco Bay Area, I was also driving the new Mercedes EQS and finally getting my turn behind the wheel. And same city, Kyle didn't say hey, so shame on you, Kyle.
Oh man, gosh darn it! How hard is it to pick up the phone these days?
How hard? No, we were both very busy.
Yeah, no, those are busy times for sure. But yeah, I mean, so go ahead at theroadshow.com. Like Antoine said, there's also the EQS, tons of cars this week. I'm not even overstating that. There was a ton of reviews that went live this week. And well, with that, we're done here this week. We'll keep it short and sweet for all you guys so you can dive into your weekend. Antoine, thank you so much for joining us and giving me a break from Craig Cole because he's a lot to handle sometimes.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, you know it anytime. Thank you, Antoine. Thank you to our video producer, Evan, as always, to put this show together, make it work, because nobody else is good with that side of the technology, and you wouldn't even see the show at all without him. And with that said, thank you for watching this week's Roadshow News Recap, where we dissect and discuss the biggest automotive news of the week. We will see you back next week, and until then, take care and have a great weekend.